Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Anointed Breakout Ministry. I'm Pastor Gilbert Lundy. Instead of being on the patio, we're right here in our own living room. We welcome you this morning. This morning, before I start, I want to show you something that I am proud of. I have on this very colorful Lion of Judah t-shirt. I like this t-shirt. See the multicolors? I also have on a jacket that is now becoming my favorite jacket. It is a Lion of Judah jacket. Excuse me while I turn around one moment. It is made from some very pretty crystals, designed and made for me by my wife, First Lady Keisha Lundy. She is the owner and proprietor of Pose Creative Designs, and she is the one who did this Lion of Judah t-shirt as well as the Lion of Judah on the back of my new jacket. Now let's get started. This morning, our scriptures are coming from the book of 2 Samuel. We're coming from the 12th chapter, the first verse through the 7th verse, part 8. The title of our message today, How Quickly We Forget. How quickly we forget. Again, our sermon message is coming from the second book of Samuel, the 12th chapter, verses 1 through 7a. Let me read to you from 2 Samuel, the 12th chapter, beginning in verse 1. It says, Then the Lord sent Nathan to David, and he came to him and said to him, There were two men in one city, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceedingly many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing except one little ewe lamb which he had bought and nourished, and it grew up together with him and with his children. It ate of his own food and drank from his own cup and lay in his bosom, and it was like a daughter to him. And a traveler came to the rich man, who refused to take from his own flock and from his own herd to prepare one for the wayfaring man who had come to him. But he took the poor man's lamb and prepared it for the man who had come to him. So David's anger was greatly aroused against the man. And he said to Nathan, As the Lord lives, the man who has done this shall surely die. And he shall restore fourfold for the lamb, because he did this thing and because he had no pity. And in the final verse, the prophet Nathan said unto David, Then David, you are the man. You are the man. You know, it's funny how quickly people seem to forget the wretchedness of their own lives, whether it's their past or whether it's how they're living presently. How quick we are to point out fingers at others and to frown on them because of their way of life, forgetting quickly our own past lives. We are sure to name when we can every sinful act that relates to someone else, while failing to acknowledge our own sins, our own transgressions, and our own iniquities. The truth is, the world would be a much better place if we first took a look at our own faults and set about trying to fix what's wrong in our own lives, in our own families, in our own homes, even in our own churches. Here's some good advice. Sweep around your own front door. Not just your own front door. When you're finished sweeping around your front door, maybe you ought to sweep around your back door. Sweep around your garage door if you have one. And of course, check all your windows as well. If we spent more time seeing what God sees when he looks at us, we would not have time to focus on the faults and the pitfalls of others. We would realize just how broken we are and how seriously in need of repairs we happen to be ourselves. I am sure this story about King David reminded someone of themselves. You know, sometimes we'll hear a story or somebody will tell us about something that has happened, and the first thing we do is think that they're talking about us. The preacher can preach a sermon on a Sunday from the pulpit, and someone sitting there will think the preacher is preaching about them. You see, the guilt that is brought on by sin works that way. It makes us feel that others know even when they don't. Now, the story of David and Bathsheba and Uriah begins in 2 Samuel, the 11th chapter, and goes through 2 Samuel, the 12th chapter. We're going to be picking up the story, of course, in 2 Samuel, the 12th chapter and the first verse. In there, we see that the Lord sent the prophet Nathan to see King David. And upon arrival, he told the king a story about two men, one rich and one poor. He told him that the rich man had lots of sheep, but the poor man had only one sheep that he loved very much. Now, a traveler happened to come to visit with the rich man. And rather than the rich man take a sheep from the many that he had to prepare for the traveler, the rich man went and took the poor man's only lamb and prepared it for the traveler the way he likes. Imagine someone having an overflow of abundance, and here you are struggling day in and day out to get by. And then they decide to take from you what little you have, leaving you with nothing. Just think how angry that would make you. I mean, if it doesn't make you angry, I'm sure it would make me angry, because you didn't ask for my last. You took it without my permission. Now, King David became angry when he heard the story Nathan was telling. He became angry hearing what the rich man did. He stated, "As the Lord lives, the man who has done this shall surely die. And he shall restore fourfold for the lamb, because he did this thing and because he had no pity." That's what the king said. The king did not realize that the story he had just listened to was about himself. We often do things thinking no one will know, but that's not true. You see, David failed to realize that the God he served had witnessed everything he did. The same God who witnessed David's sins also sees our sins, yours and mine. God sees and knows everything, even before they happen. Now, after the king had spoken judgment against the man in the story, not realizing it was actually him, the prophet Nathan simply said, "You are the man." I can imagine how the king must have felt hearing those words, condemning words, "You are the man." The punishment he felt was appropriate for someone else is now staring him right in his face. This is what we call sticking your foot in your proverbial mouth. It's a reminder to all of us to stop and think before we speak, to listen carefully when others are speaking so we clearly understand the message. How quickly King David had forgotten his own sinfulness and spoke judgment thinking it was someone else. He did so without remorse or pity, as he said himself. Some of us have been guilty of jumping to conclusions too quickly concerning someone or something. Learn to listen attentively and react responsibly. Before you cast accusations about someone, make sure you have all the facts and every part of the story. Just think. You lied on someone the other day, and today someone lied on you, and you are upset. You started a rumor about a friend, so they started a rumor about you, and now you angry. You cheated on someone you love, and they cheated on you, and now you want revenge. You stole from someone, then you were robbed, and now you want justice. How quickly we forget. The Bible story of David, Bathsheba, and Uriah, it reminded me of a movie that I watched titled Road to Perdition, starring Tom Hanks as a character named Mike Sullivan, a mob enforcer. You know, in that story, after Mike's eldest son, Michael, witnessed a hit, the son of his boss, who is actually jealous of Mike's relationship with his father, uses what happens to kill Mike's wife and youngest son. Anyway, in the movie, Mike is given a letter to deliver to a man who owes his boss a lot of money. Mike had no idea that his boss was offering the man a chance to resolve all his debts with him if he would just kill Mike. He delivered his own death note without knowing. Now, Mike killed the man and read the note in the movie. Then he set out to save those he loved. He was angry about his wife and his young son being killed, and he sought revenge. How quickly Mike forgot all the people he had killed as he scrambled to save his life and the life of his only son. How quickly Mike forgot all those people he had killed. In 2 Samuel, we have a similar incident, still in the story of King David. In 2 Samuel, if you were to go back to the 11th chapter, the 14th and 15th verse, it said, in the morning it happened that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. And he wrote in the letter saying, set Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle and retreat from him, that he may be struck down and die. Uriah unknowingly delivered his own death note to Joab. Being a loyal servant and soldier, Joab did exactly as the king had commanded him to do. How sad that David would use the dangers of war to achieve his own ends. That he would send to his death an innocent man, and that he would have no thought while doing it of God. David didn't physically commit the murder, but he was directly responsible for it because he was the king and he issued the order. After doing something so despicable as this, how could David forget so quickly? David's desires for another man's wife consumed him. It consumed him so much that he was willing to kill to have her, and he did. He could have had any single woman in his kingdom, yet he desired what belonged to someone else. How quickly we forget our own sins, and how quickly we forget about God. Seems we only remember God when things are falling apart or going very wrong in our own lives. Learn to make God a part of your everyday life. Pray, fast, and meditate on the goodness of the Lord day in and day out. Remember, no one is perfect, and we all fall short daily. Falling unintentionally is one thing, but willfully falling into sin goes against everything we claim to be. We say that we have been washed, which means we've been spiritually cleaned by God. We say that we're sanctified, which means we've been set apart as God's people. We say we've been justified and declared righteous by God because of Christ's works on the cross. So don't ever forget all that God has done and all that God is doing in our lives every day right now. If you have not accepted Christ as Savior and Lord over your life, do so quickly before you forget. Forgetting could land you in hell instead of heaven. Thank you for joining us. And remember, pray, fast, meditate, and seek the things of God and those things of heaven on a daily basis. We thank you for joining us, and we hope that you will join us again when we come back right here on the patio.